Ever pocketed a bit of cash from a weekend job or thought the sales from your online shop were flying under the radar? Well, in today's world, that's a much bigger gamble than you might think. We're about to show you exactly why. Take a look at that number, 55 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That is the number of individual pieces of data that HMRC holds on UK taxpayers just like you. It's an absolutely mind-boggling figure, and it gives you a real sense of the scale of the digital net they can now cast. So, if you've been thinking those cash payments or your little side hustle are a well-kept secret, it's probably time for a bit of a reality check. You see, the game has completely changed. Now, to help us really get to grips with all of this, we've developed this whole discussion with the brilliant tax experts over at My Tax Accountant. These folks are on the front lines, dealing with this stuff day in, day out. And with their insights, we're going to pull back the curtain on what HMRC really knows. So, here's a quick look at what we're going to cover. We'll start with HMRC's digital dragnet. Then we'll go beyond just your bank account. We'll get into the brand new rules for online platforms and look at your entire digital footprint. We'll even introduce you to the powerful bit of tech that links it all together before we finish on the most important bit, how you can stay on the right side of things. All right, let's dive into HMRC's digital dragnet. The most important thing to get your head around is this. The days of HMRC just sitting back and waiting for you to tell them what you've earned, well, those days are long gone. They are now actively hunting for that information. It's a massive shift. They're not just looking at your tax return in isolation anymore. Nope. They're looking at everything, your bank activity, what you're doing online, property records, and they're comparing all of that to what you've actually told them. This isn't about paperwork anymore. It's all about data analytics.
And this digital trail, it doesn't just stop at the English Channel. Their view now stretches right across the globe, giving them an international picture of your finances.
How is that even possible? Well, it's down to something called the Common Reporting Standard, or CRS. The easiest way to think of it is like a global agreement between tax authorities. Over 100 countries, including the UK, have all agreed to automatically share financial data with each other. Why? To put a stop to offshore tax evasion. And just look at the level of detail they're sharing. This isn't just a name. It's your address, your tax ID number, your national insurance or UTR number, right down to the exact balance of your account and any income you've made from it. In a system like this, there are very, very few places to hide. Okay, stay with me, because this next part is a huge one. It's arguably the biggest change affecting millions of us here in the UK. We're talking about the new online paper trail. So here's a massive pro tip for anyone with a side hustle. Starting in 2025, when the first reports for the previous tax year get filed, platforms like Vinted, Etsy, eBay, and Airbnb will be required to automatically send HMRC a report detailing your sales activity. Let's break this down a bit. If you're selling stuff on eBay or Vinted, your data gets sent to HMRC if you make over 30 sales and you earn more than about £1,700 in a year. But here's the kicker. Look at the other categories. For property rentals on Airbnb, transport services like Uber, or personal services on platforms like Deliveroo, any income at all gets reported. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about the £1,000 tax-free allowances for trading and property income? And you're right. Those are definitely still in place. The massive difference now is that HMRC will have the hard data to see with perfect clarity whether you earned £999 or £1,001. That new visibility, well, it changes everything. So far, we've mostly talked about financial stuff, right? But the net is actually cast much, much wider. And this is where a lot of people can get tripped up. HMRC is also looking at your wider digital footprint. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a freelancer in London declares a profit of £25,000 for the year. Seems reasonable, right? But what if data from the DVLA shows they just bought a brand new £40,000 car? Or the land registry shows they've just snapped up a second property? What if their public Instagram account is filled with pictures from a 5-star trip to the Maldives? You see how these digital breadcrumbs start to paint a very different story? And honestly, the list of places HMRC can get information from is staggering. We're talking the DVLA for your car, the land registry for property, the DWP for benefits information, even data from your credit and debit card providers. They also get to see suspicious activity reports that banks have to file if a transaction looks a bit off. So, we've got all these different pieces of the puzzle, data from dozens of different places, which brings us to the obvious question. How on earth do they connect it all together? Well, let's meet the brains of the whole operation. I mean, really, How do they link a sale on Vinted, a bank account in France, and a car purchase in Manchester all back to one person? The answer, as you've probably guessed, is some very clever technology. It's a system called Connect. And this is not some simple spreadsheet. It is a highly sophisticated piece of artificial intelligence. It cost a reported £80 million to build, and its one and only job is to churn through those 55 billion data points and build a complete 360-degree financial profile of you. So how does it actually work? Well, you can think of it in 4 simple steps. First, it pulls in all that data we've been talking about. Second, it links every single piece of data to your unique taxpayer reference number. The third step is the clever part. It uses complex algorithms to hunt for mismatches, the gaps between the lifestyle it sees and the income you've declared. And finally, if it finds a big enough red flag, it pings an alert to a real person at HMRC to open up an investigation. Okay, I know that all sounds pretty intense, but the goal here isn't to scare you, it's to prepare you. So let's flip this around and talk about the solution. Let's talk about your path to compliance and, crucially, how to avoid triggering one of these investigations in the first place. I absolutely love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. It's not just about having some proof, it's about having the right kind of proof, the kind that HMRC will actually accept. The absolute golden rule here is to have solid, organized records before you ever get a letter from them. So what are the common red flags that the Connect system is literally programmed to find? Well, filing your tax returns late all the time is a big one. So are massive unexplained jumps or drops in your income from one year to the next. Using too many estimated figures is another. And, of course, the big one we've talked about, a lifestyle that just doesn't add up with your declared income. So, the most important takeaway is this. Please don't wait for that dreaded brown envelope to drop onto your doormat. Being proactive, getting your ducks in a row now, that is your single best defense. Take a look at your income, get your records in order, and declare what needs declaring. Look, if you're feeling a bit unsure about any of this, maybe you have a side hustle or some rental income, it is always a good idea to get some professional help. The team at My Tax Accountant are genuine experts in this area, and they can give you the peace of mind you need. You can reach them on 0020-570-8531 or drop them an email.
And finally, just the important bit of housekeeping. The information we've shared today is for general guidance. It is not a substitute for proper professional advice that's tailored to your own situation. So, before you make any big financial decisions, please do speak to a qualified tax professional like the fantastic team at My Tax Accountant.